Hey, what's up you guys? My name is Lindsay and you're watching my channel, A Sight to See. If you clicked on this video, it's probably because you're considering solo travel for the first time in your life, and that is extremely exciting. There are people out there who will never consider it. I mean, if you think about it, we spend our childhood growing up and going on vacations with our family or with camps or with school, but we never really do it when we're young because that's not really a great idea. But you're an adult now, which means you have the opportunity to go and travel alone. And there are so many good things about traveling alone, but there's also cons to traveling alone. After traveling alone for 5 months last year, I learned about all the ups and downs, and I wanted to share them with you guys before you take your first solo trip so you know exactly what to expect. In my opinion, the pros definitely outweigh the cons, but there are some people out there who solo travel might not be good for. But hopefully by the end of this video, you will have your answer. So we are going to start off with the pros. One of my favorite things about solo traveling is you have so much opportunity to make new friends, and that's whether you're introverted or extroverted. I'm very introverted, and it's really hard for me to randomly go up to people at bars and start talking to them. But that's where the extroverts come in. There is a complete balance in the world, and there are just as many extroverts as there are introverts, which means if you go out to a bar alone, there really weren't many times in my trip where I went out somewhere where somebody else didn't come and approach me. So most of my time I spent in hostels because that's a great opportunity for you to make friends. There are a lot of other solo travelers there. For example, one of the hostels that I went to in Venice had like a party going on at night, and I went down into the bar and there was a bunch of people dancing and getting drinks, and I didn't know where to fit in, so I kind of just sat in a back corner. And this girl came up to me and she's like, hey, are you alone? And I was like, yeah. She's like, you want to hang out? And then me and her spent the next 4 days together in Venice, and it was freaking awesome. And it's that easy. I made friends almost every day that I was alone. Unless, of course, I was just trying to keep to myself with my headphones on and edit, but that's my own personal decision. And the great thing about hostels is that it's not weird or uncommon to go up to somebody and join their friend group. It's kind of what hostels encourage, really, because you get to meet people from all over the world. I have met so many friends on my Europe trip that I still keep in contact with on Facebook and Instagram, and it's fantastic because those are friends that I'll keep the rest of my life. And you get to learn new things from those people because usually they're not where you're from. So when you meet people from other walks of life, they have a lot to teach you if you're open to listen. And I'm always open to listen, so that was definitely one of my favorite parts of traveling alone. Sometimes if you're traveling with your friends, like say when me and Jess and Brittany go to Mexico together, we're a little bit more intimidating for people to approach because it's a group of 3 people. But if you're one person and a group of people see you, they're like, oh, well, maybe she would want to join us, or he would want to join us. So take that into consideration when you're traveling alone, is people are going to be friendly with you, and it's really nice. The second pro that I wanted to talk about is solo traveling is very character building. If you watched my last video about how vlogging helped me get over my social anxiety, the traveling was the big part of it. I did so many things that I used to be so terrified to do. I have been lost in the Madrid train station and had nobody to tell me where to go because everybody spoke Spanish, and I had to figure it out on my own. I couldn't call anybody. I couldn't really ask for help. I could try and have people understand a Spanish translator, but it was very difficult. But at the end of the day, I learned something. I have gotten on the wrong bus before. I've gotten on the wrong train once. I've gotten lost trying to find my hostels, but at the end of the day, it always wound up being okay. I figured it out on my own. And it is easier to figure things out when you're with somebody, but once you do that alone and you feel that feeling of accomplishment, it's a feeling like no other. Traveling alone definitely helps you build your social skills, your logical skills, and it just kind of changes who you are, for the better in my opinion. Another fantastic pro to solo traveling is everything is on your time. You don't have to be at a certain exhibit somewhere that your friend wants to go to, or you can sleep in if the person that you're with usually likes to get up at 6 a.m. Every single thing that you want to do, you can do it because it's your trip. You're not splitting it in half with somebody else and have to accommodate their needs. You don't have to plan a certain time for you to both have off work and get your plane tickets for the same day if the time doesn't work out for both of you. It's just, oh, I want to go here, I want to go here, I want to do this, then, here, now. You can do it. You can do everything because it's your trip and it's your time. My fourth pro for traveling alone is that a lot of the times solo travel gives you the opportunities that you might not have if you're traveling in a group. One example is, have you ever been to an amusement park and there is a line for single riders that's usually non-existent because nobody's at an amusement park alone, and then there's your very long line of people waiting for the ride together? There are plenty of opportunities that will arise in solo travel where if you're one person, it might be a little bit easier for you to get in. There have been plenty of hostels that I went to book online, like when I was going to Oktoberfest in Germany. Most of them were sold out because it's Oktoberfest and people are looking for cheap hostels. And the one that I found had one bed left. We would have had to pay triple, quadruple the price if I was with another person because there was nothing else. One really awesome opportunity that I had that I would not have had if I was with someone else was when I went out to like this beautiful 5-star restaurant in Hungary. And the only reason I went to a 5-star restaurant was because it was Hungary and it was super cheap there. Basically, I just really wanted to find this Hungarian dish, chicken paprikash, because that's what my grandma used to make me all the time when I was little because I'm Hungarian. And I found this super awesome restaurant that had great ratings that was like right down the street from my hostel. So I went to that 5-star restaurant and I was just like looking around and everybody was dressed so fancy and I was in jeans and my plaid shirt and I was just like, ooh, I don't belong here, but I really want to try this food. And so the person came up to me and kind of looked at me like a little strangely, like he's like, do you have a reservation? And I was like, no. And he was like, okay, give me a second. And then he walked away and he came back and he's like, is it just you? And I was like, yes. And he was like, okay, and then I do have a table for you. And I was like, awesome. And I had the best meal I had probably during my entire trip for like $30 US. I had a 3-course meal, had the dish that I want, had 3 glasses of wine, and it was fantastic. And I would not have been able to have that opportunity had I not been alone. So you definitely have more opportunities alone, and it also opens up your range of places to stay. My 5th and final pro, and this is probably more for the photographers and videographers that are watching, is you have all the time in the world to get the perfect shot. There are some times that I've spent an hour trying to get the photo that I wanted, but I didn't have anybody waiting on me that cared. And that was great. I can spend all day getting all of the shots that I want. If I just wanted to go and take Instagram pictures for the entire day, nobody's gonna be like, oh, well, can we go do this now? Or can we go eat something? Like, no, I had all the time in the world. And sure, you might not have help getting that perfect shot. There are plenty of tourists nearby that can help you if you need something that's not just on your tripod. Because I hate being rushed. I hate being rushed. I literally hate being rushed. So if I want to get the perfect shot, when's the next time I'm going to be in all those places? Like, this is the time to get the shot. I'm going to get it, no matter how long it takes me. So next we're going to talk about the cons. I would say that the biggest con of solo travel is you really don't have much help out there. Not the type of help that you would have from your family or from like your good friends, I mean. Google is probably the best help that you're going to be able to get. Please make sure you download Google Translate before you go. I'd say the place that I had the most trouble was probably in Slovenia when I went to their train stations and their boards weren't electronic like the rest of the train stations. Those train stations were easy to find my train. Slovenia, they're all on paper and look like they haven't been updated in forever.
Thanks, Slovenia.
So you should have seen me running back and forth up and down the train platforms trying to figure out where I needed to go, trying to speak to people and them not understanding me, but I have 3 minutes to catch my train, and if I miss that train, then I have to sit there for another 2 hours. And maybe if I had somebody else with me to kind of help figure it out, we might have gotten it done faster. Needless to say, I did miss that train, but it's okay. Because, you know, solo travel. But to overcome that con, I would just say use the resources you have around you to the best of your ability, like Google, like people nearby, maybe even call your friends and family if you have a data plan, so you can ask them for some help. But if you really want to build character, like we talked about in the pros, figuring things out on yourself really makes you feel empowered. Another con to solo traveling is there's going to be moments when you're traveling that you just see something and you are so awestruck and it is just the coolest thing you've ever seen in your entire life. Like when I was on First Mountain in Switzerland and just seeing those views, or when I got to see the Matterhorn, like those were probably the coolest things that I've ever gotten to see in my entire life. And I wish that there was somebody that I could have shared those moments with. Somebody who I could just turn to and be like, oh my God, do you see this? And have the reaction, because as humans, that's what we naturally like to do. We love other humans' reactions to things. That's why you make fun of your friends and do random things to see their reactions. But when you're solo traveling, you can't really do that with anybody. I mean, you can take pictures and post them on Facebook and people can be like, wow, that's really cool, but there is nothing like having that genuine reaction right next to you from somebody that you care about seeing it at the same time as you. So another con, and this, I mean, it is geared toward everyone, but I would say specifically females would probably want to pay the most attention to this one, is you really have to do your research and be careful about certain areas that you go to. I know that there are some places that I will never go to as a solo female traveler. For example, the Democratic Republic of Congo. Probably will never go there as a solo female traveler. Would maybe love to go there one day with like a guy or a few guys or people who I could like feel safe with, because there's power in numbers, and if I'm there alone, well, I'm kind of overtaken. There are some places that you do kind of have to stay away from if you're a solo traveler because you are more of a target. One example from my solo trip was when I actually had my friends, Jess and Brittany, come and meet me in Valencia, Spain. They told me the second that I saw them that the cab driver told them that this was a very bad place to be staying in. The place in Valencia that we chose was not good, but it was cheap, so that's why we picked it. But we didn't know that it was dangerous before we booked it. And if I was staying there alone, I probably would have been a lot more terrified. Like, at least I had Jess and Brittany with me, so when we walked, and we walked at night, like, we were a little more intimidating than just like one girl walking alone on the street. Because like I said, there's power in numbers. You really do have to be more aware that you can't go everywhere alone because of your safety. And I'm sure there are maybe some big guys watching this and say, I can handle anywhere. Well, you can't. Shut up. The next con I have to solo travel is boredom. There are some days, if you're traveling for a really long period of time like I did, where sometimes you really can't go out and do anything. Like when I was in Fiche, Switzerland, and I had a hotel room as opposed to a hostel. Fiche was a very small town and there was no hostels, and there really wasn't many people there. And the one thing that I could do there was hike. There was no museums to go to or anything. I just wanted to hike, but the first day I got there, it poured. I couldn't go out in that. I had a semi-rain jacket, but nothing that could handle that type of rain, so I basically spent all day in my hotel room, and I was incredibly bored. I just watched YouTube videos all day because I didn't really know what else to do. And then the next day, it rained again, and I was miserable those 2 days because I wasn't in a hostel where I could go and meet people. I did actually spend a lot of that time video chatting my friends from back home, but there's no one to spend that downtime with. And you know, you get really bored when you have that much downtime when you're traveling. It's always more fun to spend the times when you're bored with people that you love. And the last con that I want to talk about, which you might think is a little weird, but as a solo traveler, you might have to lie a bit. I know what you're thinking, Lindsay, why would I have to lie? But I lied a lot to strangers when I was alone in Europe because I didn't necessarily want people to know that I was alone in Europe, because people will take advantage of you. I had met people from all walks of life on my journey. I talked to young little girls in Spain, and I talked to 70-year-old Irishmen at bars. Like, you talk to everybody in between. And there are just some people who I don't want them to know that I'm going back to walk to my hotel after I had a few beers alone. That's just not safe. Nobody should do that. And I didn't want people knowing where I was going next. So there was a lot of times where people would be like, oh, are you alone? Because I did get asked that a lot. And I would be like, no, I have a friend back at the hotel, but she was a little tired. Or if people say like, oh, like, that's really cool that you're doing a big adventure, like, where are you going next? I would tell them either where I just came from or a place that isn't even on my itinerary so that I don't know where I'm going so they can't follow me. I did get followed, but thankfully not in that dangerous of a manner. And it sucks because of course I want to tell people, I'm having this YouTube channel where I'm producing all this content being a solo traveler in Europe for the first time with a bunch of anxiety, and I'd like people to see my work, but I also at the same time don't want them to know what I'm doing until after I do it, you know? So as a solo traveler, especially solo female travelers, you're gonna have to lie a bit just to stay safe. But at the end of the day, I really do think that the pros outweigh the cons. Solo traveling is the best thing that I have ever done for myself in my life, and I'm going to continue to do it for the rest of my life. It might not be for everyone. Sometimes those cons might outweigh the pros, but in my opinion, there is a whole world out there to see, and I don't want to waste my time waiting for other people to go and see that. So I hope if you've considered solo traveling, this video gave you the answer that you were looking for as to whether it's for you or not. If you like this video, please leave a comment down below and subscribe so you will be notified every time I go on a new adventure alone. I will catch you guys on the next one.